Tamara.
Okay, hopefully lunch was good and a nice little break. We are going to talk a little bit about advocacy. And actually, our first person up is Jean Irwin, who is I just introduced to Karen Jensen, Karen's the president of UDEO, Utah Dance Education Association. She'll be talking to you a little bit later. And Jean is the education, do we call you an education specialist for the Utah Division of Arts and Museums?
And accessibility.
And accessibility coordinator, which is really important. So,
really quickly, what you have in your packet is a variety of materials. And I think most of you know that you can ask us for copies of some of this stuff for your school district, for your individual schools. If you're having an arts night, the opening of Reflections, a play, and you're wanting some handouts on the reasons for why the lessons that the arts teach. A new advocacy booklet, a redone one for parents to hand to your parents on how to advocate for arts education. Not the night before, but if you want 500 copies, Jamie Reese always sends for, I want 10 lessons, I'm out of the parent advocacy, I'm out of the science brochure, these are the things that I'm wanting. So take us up on it, because providing that kind of material for you is easy enough. The big news, we launched this week, both Poetry Out Loud, and I know you guys aren't into language arts, but you all have a language arts person at your district, our National Poetry Out Loud competition. We're in our 15th year. We are the state, my office is the state coordinator for that. The winner from Utah goes to Washington, D.C., and we've had 3 students from Utah win $5,000 prizes and 2 win $5,000 prizes and $1,000 prize. The top prize is a $20,000 scholarship to the winning student. And you can watch the competition online. It's live streamed in April. This year it will be at the end of April. We have about 5,000 kids in Utah involved in Poetry Out Loud from all over the state. So if you'll pass that on to your language arts person, it's also a super way to begin a recitation at any arts event for a student. So if you have theater teachers, a lot of the students that we get, like Marquez Hassan, who was our national winner a while back, it came through her theater department. So theater teachers are always interested in this. And then the big news today, Christy, some of you, we roll out this next Senate art competition this year, and that's this publication. It's been redone a little bit. You will be happy to note, some of you that kept saying you had photography teachers that were irritated as all get out because President Niederhauser didn't want photography, and I couldn't convince him that it was an art form. We have a new Senate president calling the shots now. So photography is indeed accepted in the categories. The other thing I convinced them to do is we bag the theme. So now the student can address about anything he or she wants to in Utah as the theme, because if you remember last year, President McAdams' new theme was really hard to deal with, and it was hard for kids to come up with an idea. So there's no theme. You can think in terms of, this is the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote, and Utah was the first state to grant women the right to vote in America. They can do it on landscape, they can do it on peoples, they can do it on community, they can do it on a social issue. So that's new. And the other thing I convinced President Adams into is, instead of, I know you districts forward people students based on the population in your school district. And at the state level, judging, it's always been done online by senators and by 2-3 professional judges that know something about the visual arts. So we're hoping it really ramps up the judging and the selection of stuff of excellence. And we're going to do it all in one day at the Capitol Hill with the people that President Adams has selected. And Tamara is helping us come up with some of the criteria that they should be looking for the judges that will be presenting, especially to the Senate side. So those are some of the new elements. And I'm hoping you guys will get this out ASAP. It's ready now. Submittable's already up. Kids can start submitting between now and the due date, and you'll see that the due date is a little bit earlier. We're wanting everything done before Christmas. We're not going to do the crash and burn that we did last year, which was hysterical in my office. I don't think the senator's office knows what it takes to pull some of this stuff off. So we are ramping it up, and I will hopefully will not be picking up the phone and calling you one by one and asking you to get that information out to your visual arts people and your photography people this year. Okay, so I'm counting on you to get this word out. The prize money stays the same, $5,000, $3,000, $100. We're not giving $350 prizes this year. We're giving more $500 prizes. And I will tell you that there were a couple times last year that I had to actually call the counselor at the school and say, your student has not responded to text, telephone calls, emails, and neither have their parents. So please go down and find this kid and whisper in his ear, do you want $5,000? Because if the answer is no, then they're going to give it to somebody else. So do remember that about 20 some odd dollars of the 20 some odd pieces, students will be given a cash award, and they'll also be brought up. We'll pay for their expenses to get to Capitol Hill, to be honored on the Senate floor and handed their prize by their own particular senator.
Is it a cash or is it a 529?
It's a 529.
Okay.
It's a scholarship that goes into their 529 account. We do have one student who's up to like $700,000 now because he started as a 9th grader.
Wow.
So anyway, please help me get the word out. And again, if you're from last year, one of the winners was from San Juan County, and we pay for the travel support to get the kids from the rural districts into, and one night of hotel to get them here to the Capitol. That was a promise I extracted from President Niederhauser when we were talking about issues of equity. And the other thing that we do is we mat and frame all the student work that comes in of those finalists. Everything is done online prior to that, but the winners then deliver their work, and we do the matting and framing. I don't, but Arts Corner and Andy does. So that's the biggest thing that rolls out this week, or the website was up for this on the 1st. And then the big bomb, we still have the teacher incentive project grants, and Christy can tell you how many she's had of those. That's the grant that pays for a professional artist to work with a teacher one-on-one in the preferred discipline of the teacher's choice. And it doesn't even have to be the discipline that you're teaching. But beyond that, the big news is we are getting ready to redesign our grants program. And I'm really excited about it because I have a boss that's super supportive of this. It will be a new way that we disperse dollars directly to schools and school districts. It will be less about you making sure you've said all the right things on a grant application to make us happy and to make a panelist happy, and more about our office and your school and your project getting together and talking through this and creating an exemplary model to advance arts education. Okay, so you districts need to be thinking about this and something you may want to do, but know that it probably won't come in a grant application anymore. I am so done with grants. And I know that it's not fair to ask you to go into fundraising and writing grants when I would rather you be teaching your art or directing your band or whatever. So that's on the back burner, but you need to know that in coming this soon in March, there will probably not be the standard arts education grant. So it'll come as a letter of inquiry and intent, and we'll start scheduling meetings, and it won't just be me, it will be some other individuals as well. Callie.
Will you still do the tip grants?
We'll still do the tip grants, but that's really not a grant either. So it's just an application, and when the tip money runs out, that's the end of it. But that is still of high interest. But and the next round might be more than the $7,000 threshold. It might be more. But it's a grand experiment I'm willing to try, because I'm really, I've been in this business, 28 years now, as having to run that grant program for our agency. And I've been on National Endowment for the Arts panels and way too many panels, and I'm really sick of grant applications. So there, you have my confession. Any questions on any of this stuff? Chris?
So there will not be like a March 20th deadline this year?
Probably not. And if we can pull this all off with state finance, I know I have my director's backing, but and at some point we'll announce that. If we can't pull it all off, we might do it in a modified fashion, more in terms of a shortened grant to seasoned applicants. But I'm done with and you've been on too many panels, Chris. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And Noemi and Chris and Julie, some of you have been on and you know what I'm talking about, and trying to decipher all the promises that probably won't come true. And so we're trying to figure out ways to be more supportive of potential projects and to make them deeper and richer and do less but more. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you've got some burning thing you want to do, something new you want to do, now's the time to start thinking about it. And figure out who all's going to help you in that task. Anything else?
All right.
Just go ahead.
Yes.
So I get to talk to you about Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program. We have just presented to the Board of Education a Gear Up plan that would take Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program to every school that has some combination of K-6 grades. We've asked for $17 million in addition to the $12 million that we have. It's not likely that we could staff $17 million worth of legislative funding. So we're in the process of going back and giving them a Gear Up plan to where those of you who have schools in waiting, we'll call them, schools in waiting for the program, that hopefully will at least be able to fund those the next year. Please watch the legislative session. It begins the third week in January and ends early March. Encourage I'm speaking on behalf of Lisa Clough, who could not be here. This is not Kathy Jensen here. This is Lisa Clough. Oh, wait, I couldn't even begin to pass for Lisa. But encourage your parents to sign up for Friends of Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program. Watch the legislation yourself. watch what's happening in your individual boards of education, and particularly in the State Board of Education. Know who those representatives are and take every opportunity to advocate on behalf of the students in your schools. I wanted to just briefly touch on Title 4A. We have 3 districts that have Title 4A money specific to the arts. 2 of them are here. Washington County.
All 3 are here.
All 3 are here. Washington County School District, Salt Lake City School District, and Uinta. Okay. So would you take not more than a minute, each one of you, and just tell what your grant is in the arts? Title 4A. Remember, Title 4, it comes out of ESSA. This is where we get the arts as an essential part of a well-rounded education.
So for our grant, hello, is it working? For our grant, we put in for art supplies and to build an art supplies warehouse, and also to update instruments that have not been updated in the band and orchestra programs since last century, at least, and to get all of the instruments chemically cleaned for the first time in known history.
Oh, yeah.
Also on it. So that's the big one for us, and that took the entire grant. But I would really strongly suggest that any of you that can get the grant, do it. It's well worth it.
They have some professional development
A little
plans
bit,
too.
just a little bit, yeah.
Adam Eskelson from Salt Lake City School District. So we are one of the, I think, last almost districts to still fund elementary music services. And this grant is supporting that. We have changed the way our service patterns work, and all 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students will receive elementary music, 5th and 6th grade, with a concentration in band and orchestra. And this grant is going to help us to be able to not only get instruments for that program, but to look into curriculum, and so that we can have a common goal, and so that we can move in the same direction. So that's what we're doing. And some teacher professional development around that.
I have to bring a cheat sheet. So in our district, I received about 30% of our district's available money. And
Which was enormous.
yeah, it was a,
They got amounts.
and we are, hold on. So the biggest thing for me was to find a way to provide for a halftime person to help work with me so I could service all of our schools and all of the arts. We have 50 schools in our district and over 30,000 students. And by myself, I was just drowning us. So we got a halftime person working with me at the district level to help support teachers. And that was about 1/3 of my money. And then we also, we have money set aside to provide clinics and professional development for each one of our areas. And we highlighted the theater teachers to make sure they're getting trained. So we have one person, some money set aside for band, orchestra, choir, art, and I can't remember anyway, we had 9,000 set aside, 1,000 for each, but in theater we did 3 of them, one for soundboard, one for light board, and one for one of the other things.
Subdesign?
Yes, something. And then I also included in that, our teachers love using Chromebooks. So I've said it, so that schools that don't have Chromebooks, we've got some money set aside to buy them some Chromebooks. Not a lot, but at least get them started. And, oh, there we go. Lightboard, soundboard, and I can't find the third one real quick. Okay, never mind. And the last one is to help provide some support in our theater programs where they need some computers and some video cameras to be able to do more than just watch movies in the film classes, but to produce and create movies. So I focus a lot on the theater this year, and then next year I'll focus a little more on art and keep rotating through the different art forms.
Communicate with your LEAs about the opportunity to have the arts participate in that Title IV-A application.
So last year, when you introduced this to us, you said to go back to our districts. So my district didn't know anything about it, and they looked into it. And my supervisor then held one meeting that she invited me into, but then a couple principals and the grant writer went and did whatever they did, and I have no idea what they did. And so I'd like to know from those three people if they were heavily involved in that, or if they like have it in their districts to get that to happen.
So how did the three of you get in?
I started last year at this time. I went back and talked to our business administrator and said, I hear there's this money, and like they said, they had no clue. And I would go and talk to assistant superintendent, my direct supervisor, no clue. But when the email started flying in January, I went straight back to them and I said, this is what I'm talking about. And they didn't really understand it. So they at first said, okay, you're in charge, go. And then when they saw how much money it was, they said, you're not in charge anymore. And I was kind of grateful for that.
He got $100,000.
I got 400,000. I got 120 of it. So at one point, they finally called me in. Everybody had a chance who wanted to. Everybody had a chance to do some of it. Most of them said, no, we're good. No, we're good. Good for me. He said, you get 120,000 and no more. I said, well, that's good because guess what I want? I want 120,000. That's what I was hoping for. So the fact that I got as much as I was hoping for was great. I had the conversation with him on Friday about next year.
So I think it's squeaky wheel, Chris.
Yeah. And he said next year I should expect the same.
Okay.
Why didn't the superintendents get the information? Because I forwarded that on after I came back from this meeting too, and got the same response. I don't know why you're talking about it. I can't find anything about it. So then it just.
Every district got their money. So I can't tell you what happened in your individual districts because, as you remember, this was a formula grant. It was not a competitive grant. It was formula and whoever it went to. So I don't know how to tell you how to get in touch with the right person, but just be persistent.
Our district did get money.
Yes.
Superintendents didn't know about it because he said, I don't know anything about it.
They didn't know about it at the time of this meeting last year. The only reason we knew about it is because our then UMEA president had found out all about it at National Assembly with our National Music Association, who is huge in the advocacy and lobbying efforts. That's how she knew, and she gave us the information. Then we went back, and it was months later before.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
The superintendents knew.
What Sherry says is exactly right. The National Association for Music Education was way on top of this, and we in the arts can thank one person, namely Lynn Tuttle, out of the National Association for Music Education, for her forward thinking and her providing toolkits and so on for the arts. So we in the arts knew much more about it than our agency knew about it. Well,
So ours was the same thing, not knowing until, and then going back and forth and back and forth. The other major thing that helped us out is that, like you said, it's on a formula, and you need a needs assessment. The year before, I had just done an entire assessment across our district, our little district, on what were our needs, and I had that information sitting there. And when my director saw how much money was available, like the others, he said, oh, I think we have bigger needs than the arts. But I just kept chipping away at him, and luckily there was another big grant. He gave me the grant 2 days before it was due. 2 days. So there's about 20 hours in those 2 days that I put it in. But I had the information there because I'd done the audit.
Adam?
Very similar. I worked closely
So I've been working on revamping our services for a couple of years. I went and petitioned the board. I talked to the superintendent. I have a great relationship with my boss, who is on the cabinet for the superintendency, and she said, "Yep, we'll include you in this." So we also got 120,000 just for music.
That's awesome. We'll come back to this conversation if we need to, but I need to turn the microphone to Callie, who needs to leave.
I'm sorry to mess up your schedule. Can I flip a couple slides or not?
Try.
Just makes things go faster if I can. Do you have, oh, I should have started with VHS. Do you have HDMI? I have an adapter. Oh, actually, this one does. Thank you. Bob knows my equipment by now. He always bails me out. I can push your buttons. When I was supposed to be saying hello to you, I hurried through this slide together because this is an opportunity. I didn't want to miss this chance. We have an incredible conference for administrators and teacher leaders on November 12th. And we just found out last Friday that Alex Boyer will be performing for us. So he's our big line item draw, but what I really want to point out is this keynote speaker, Mary Helen Immordino Yang. She was here presenting at UVU 10 years ago. She is a neurophysiologist who used to be a science teacher, a middle school science teacher, and she brings the neurophysiology down to the classroom level like no other presenter I've ever seen before. She has very clear and articulate ways to help people do social and emotional learning inside of all kinds of education, which very much includes the arts, and she has a wonderful message and really speaks principles language. This is $45. Okay, this is subsidized by the Don and Mina Hicken Endowment at Brigham Young University. Therefore, we don't have to charge full price for the conference. We broke the bank to bring her. I hope that you guys will get some principles here to hear. I think it's going to be incredible. Anna's presenting that day. Chris is presenting that day. We have lots of great sessions happening for breakouts. It's going to be wonderful. But
So this goes back to that priority of informing leaders about our value.
okay, next slide.
So what I was invited to share with you today specifically is one initiative that we're doing. We noticed a problem where our arts educators kept calling us and saying, I don't even dare do African drumming anymore because every time I do, somebody gets mad at me, I offend somebody. Or if I sing the wrong Native American song, I make somebody's grandmother upset and I don't understand why. And we've started having dancers and visual artists and musicians start pulling away from doing cultural arts. And we have this climate in our culture nationwide right now where cultural sensitivity is really an important and critical issue. So we saw an opportunity, Brenda Bial is on our team, and we saw an opportunity to start conversations about cultural sensitivity and understanding. So Brenda is from the Navajo Dene Nation, and she and Chris, a year ago summer, presented a session at our Arts Express conference about Native American lesson plans. And Jean Irwin was there, and we decided that day this is something that could be big that we should partner on. So we are partnering with the Utah Division of Arts and Museums, and we spent the last year and a half building on this initiative. And what Brenda did is she went to a representative of each of the tribes. And although there's 5 tribes represented, when they did their treaties with the federal government, depending on the region they were in, they each got a different treaty. So that turned them into 9 tribes in Utah with 5 grandmother tribes, which is indicative of the problem that we have here. The tribes don't even communicate with each other or have the same treaties. These are 9 sovereign nations within our state boundaries that are represented in our schools, but they're invisible. We don't have a way to communicate about them and share and make them welcome in the communities. We looked back at the last time lesson plans had been done by very bright, very capable people, and we saw how much the culture had changed since those lesson plans were done and how some of the sensitivities were suddenly different. Well, no wonder people are getting sensitive to this. So Brenda met with
representatives from each of those tribes and went to them and said, what do you want the children in Utah to know about your art form? And those lessons that they have co-created and collaborated to create have been put up on our Arts Partnership website. I think there's 6 or 8 up now, and we have more in the queue waiting to go through the editors to get published. They're working on them. Jean is going to create an artist roster of Native American artists so that we have Native American artists ready to go out to schools presenting authentic art. A couple of interesting things that happened with this. For example, at the beginning of the conversations, we thought all the tribes believed that the round dance was something that everyone could use to teach Native American culture. And it wasn't until we got them all in one room. The tribal elders meet regularly. And Chris and Jean and several other people on our team went and met with them one time. And when they were all in the room, we found out even the round dance, some people believe should not be done by white people in white people's ceremonies. And we realized what we're trying to do is come up with a series of questions so that teachers don't have to be afraid to do things. With their class in that culture, they can ask certain questions, uncover sensitivities, and then proceed with more wisdom. And we're hoping that this translates over into arts activities from African cultures and other cultures where their art is part of their religious and sacred ceremonies. When European cultures, we don't run into these sensitivities. We can do folk dances from wherever. But when I'm doing an African, what you might call a folk dance, it likely has a spiritual and sacred root for them, and it requires different information and different sensitivities. So we are developing this with the Utah Division of Arts and Museums. We meet with the tribal councils, and our goal is to create conversations. We hope that as people start sharing these lesson plans, and we'll do some promotional things. If your name is on the state's list for district arts coordinators, you will get some of our publicity and get these lesson plans out to you. We're close, okay? We have a few up, but we'll wait till we start doing real marketing for a little bit of time. Our goal is to integrate culture, arts, and respectful practices in healthy ways by engaging in those conversations. So Chris or Jean, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, they should know the lessons that you put on your site, they go through so many levels before they can be put on the site. I think they're better than the ones at the Kennedy Center.
Oh, thank you.
They've all been
Because you're on our team.
Out in the classrooms, tested in with real kids, and they go through many
Iterations.
eyes looking at before it's even posted. And that's one reason why it's taking so long to get lesson plans out.
So, for example, the scrutiny of anything that goes up, calling it Native American lesson plans, our editor at BYU said, you are not allowed to call it that. It has to be American Indian. And I said, you know, the people who are on this team creating these will decide what it's called. That wasn't going to be made by a BYU administrator. So we went back to the tribal leaders, and Brenda Beale did a whole bunch of research. And one of the strongest lines that one of the Native Americans used, he said, and this is really part of the national conversations about what to call Native Americans or American Indians. And he said, American Indian is the title that we were enslaved under, and it is the title we will be liberated under. And that's how he sees Native American, as a sovereign nation. So in all the federal documents, it's American Indian. And our people here in Utah strongly prefer Native American. The problem with Native American is there are other people in this country who are native to it who are not American Indian descent. So the conversations about these words expose the sensitivities and the level of the sensitivities to start building understanding. It isn't about the decision we get to, it's that we learn to engage in the right conversations to increase our sensitivity and serve each other with a new kind of respect. Anna?
Kelly, is it elementary and secondary or just elementary?
We are, so far they are written towards elementary, but I really agree with Chris, the level of the content is absolutely appropriate secondary also. I don't see any reason they can't be used K-12. Jean?
I totally concur. I've been part of that, listening to the debate of Native American versus American Indian for 30 years now. And one of the things that I have found that it's almost down to the individual. It's like, I hate being called Oriental. Don't ever call me that. And it's okay to ask.
It's okay to ask.
It's okay to ask, and it's by far more respectful of every individual to ask, regardless of what their color or their culture is, how would you like to be referred to? I don't know. So I think that debate that she mentioned is going to continue because it depends on the tribal affiliation and it depends on the individual. For Utah right now, it's Native American, but elsewhere in the country, you're seeing this shift. And the last conversations I've had with 4 different people from 4 different parts of the country, none of them in Utah, American Indian, and one of them said American. So go figure.
Yeah, the fact that
it's
it's
a
the federal
conversation.
governance title that was given.
It's kind of the difference between Latino and Hispanic versus the ones that want to be called Chicana, you know.
So we ask. So one of the things we learned is we have many Native American tribes have what they call a Coyote Story. And if you're Native American, you may tell Coyote stories from the first frost to the first lightning.
In Navajo.
In Navajo. So that's the Navajo tradition, the first frost to the first lightning. So a teacher might be in school telling a Coyote story that really came out of Europe. But that child goes home and tells grandma, we did a Coyote story today. Now grandma is deeply offended because it's May and it's long past the first lightning. Or they live somewhere where they have no idea when the first frost is and the first spring. But it's only a winter story. But they tell their seasons by the events of the first frost to the first lightning. And that means it's now springtime. So it's about the questions we ask. In this class, what are the cultural things from your family that you feel sensitive about or that I as your teacher need to be aware of? What are the sensitivities here? And those are the kinds of questions teachers need to start being able to embrace in order to tailor their instruction for the group of children in their room. Because there is no way I could have ever known when I'm allowed to tell a Coyote story and when I'm not. I have to ask my students and I have to be sensitive as those issues come up because everyone will have their own issues.
And it also boils down from tribe to tribe to tribe. I think that's one of the things that this work is doing, is emphasizing the importance of the tribal affiliation. Because in the Navajo culture, I've had to tell artists, don't go down there and have the kids draw coyotes, snakes, owls. But in another tribe, you can draw coyotes and snakes and owls. And so just keep in mind, it's okay to ask about the tribal specifics. And I don't think that I don't know enough about Eurocentric cultures outside of whether they're that exacting or not, but maybe it's because these are so tied to religious beliefs and sacred practices. And whereas, you know, Swan Lake isn't necessarily tied to your Catholic church.
Yep. So watch for this. We are excited for your feedback and looking forward to sharing. And there will be a session at the Learning Edge conference that I hope you guys will bring a group of principals and come. $45 is the cheapest deal they'll ever get anywhere at the Provo Marriott, November 12th. I will email you some information. Thanks for your time.
Lessons will be great because they'll be explicit, so you don't have to have the worries. Next on our agenda, we have UAC, which is the, help me Kathy, the
Utah Advisory Council of Theater Teachers, or Teachers of Theater. I'm not sure which T is which.
Okay, and Andra Thorne is their president, and she was sick today and unable to be here. And she did want you to know that they're having their first ever New Teacher Academy on October 12th at Spanish Fork High School. And all new teachers across the state are invited. They do not have to be a UAC member. That day will consist of workshops and classes covering a myriad of subjects and new teacher supplies from theater folk. This is a free event for teachers, and she will be sending flyers out either directly to you or through our agency. And if you have questions about that before you get the information, you can let Kathy or I know. Next, we are going to, we'll go in this order. We have Anna Davis, who is president of the Utah Art Education Association. And we have Karen Jensen here, who is the president of the Utah Dance Education Organization. And we have Todd Campbell, who is the Utah Music Education Association. And we'll go to that point.
Great, thank you. Okay, at the end of lunch, I try to hand out one of these awards nomination forms. Did everybody get one of these? Did anyone not get one of these? Okay. Maybe Tamara, could you?
Yes.
Use that to anybody that didn't get it?
Raise your hand if you need one.
So let me just tell you briefly, and I want to talk about awards first because I'm really hoping that you'll just, maybe even while I'm talking, you'll take 5 minutes or 3 minutes to fill out an awards nomination. Some of you may not be in the visual arts realm, but if you could pass this along to someone else in your district, we would really appreciate that. We've been trying to rethink how we do awards in UAEA. Most of how we've gotten awards in the past is we have a paper like this at our conference, people to nominate each other, and then it's usually like a tally, kind of a popular oh, this person got 5 votes and this person only got 4 votes. So, and part of the problem with that is, for example, Alpine School District, we're a very large district and we pay for a lot of our teachers to go down. So no surprise, we got a lot of representation from Alpine School District in our awards. Meanwhile, maybe there's a really great teacher out at Moab or in Beaver or in Price or in Vernal that is not getting any recognition at all. So we've been trying to rethink awards. How can we make it more representational? And how can we make it when you win an award that it means something more than you got one more vote than one other person at this one conference? So one of the first things that we wanted to do was reach out to our district art coordinators because you represent a wide geographical region across Utah and you know your people. So you might not have a recommendation for every single one of these, but we're really, really hoping that you'll take a moment. And we're still trying to set up a rubric for determining who our award winners are, but a nomination from the district art coordinator counts a lot more than just a regular nomination from our teachers. We also at our spring conference last year, we tried to go paperless as much as possible. We developed an app that told about the sessions. Michelle was instrumental in that and really did a great job. But one of the things that we went to was trying to do online award nominations rather than the paper nominations. And we saw a huge decrease. Of course, it was a new learning curve, but we saw a huge decrease in even people nominating each other. So we're trying to get more representation from district art coordinators. We also have 2 new committees on our UAEA board. One is a geographic region committee, where we split the state up into like 10 different geographic regions, and we're asking each of our geographic region reps to nominate through all of these awards. And then we're also have set up PLC committees, like a ceramics committee or a printmaking committee or a BTS committee, and we're asking them to also nominate their colleagues within that. So we're deliberately trying to reach out to make our awards more deserving and to spread the reach so that we're getting more people recognized. So if you could take a moment and before you leave today, please, please, please just leave me with this paper. Even if you don't fill out every spot, we'll take what we can get. Did anybody not get this little handout for our UAEA? So I just wanted to leave you with, did you guys? We have 2 conferences, major conferences throughout the year. Our fall conference is coming up on November 16th. It's at Corner Canyon High School. The theme for our fall conference is Fill Your Cup. It's meant for teachers to be able to go to an afternoon 2-hour session or a morning session and an afternoon session and learn from a master teacher and be able to walk out of that 2-hour session with a work of art that they've made. Not just an idea, but we want our art teachers to be making art as well. So that's going to be exciting. And we also have our annual spring conference. It's at Hurricane High School this year. And it's actually right over Leap Day. It's the 27th, 28th, and 29th of February. So with that, we've been talking a lot about different ideas. And to tie in with Leap Day, our theme is LEAP, which is loving experimentation, abandoning perfection. We're kind of as far as like going on with that social and emotional wellness. We see that. We're still nailing down a couple of things. Our wish list is we want to get Michael Bingham, who's up from Cache County, to come and share a little bit about his experience working especially with some of our special needs art learners. And then the last thing I just wanted to let you know is I've been encouraging this, especially this new geographic region committee and our professional learning community committees, to promote workshops of their own. So we're having our first regional workshop for UAEA in Moab, Utah on September 21st. It's in a couple of weeks. We're going to have a raku ceramics demonstration. And the idea is we want to bring UAEA professional learning out to all regions of the state, not just at our main conferences. And Noemi and I have also been brainstorming about reaching out to other diverse communities within our state. So we're still figuring that out. But we would love to reach out and maybe target some, like maybe Latino students or Native American students, and reach out to diverse communities within our state. So some great things with UAEA. Thanks so much in advance for filling out those nomination forms.
Am I supposed to use this as well?
Yes.
Okay.
It's being filmed.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Karen Jensen, and I'm currently serving as the president of the Utah Dance Education Organization. And I'm happy to share with you some of our events that we're doing this year. Just so you know, as background information, UDEO was formed in 2000 as a state-level affiliate of the National Dance Education Organization. I'm showing you here our website, just so you can access it if you want, and I'll walk you through a couple of things on it. But we represent the K through 12 sectors as well as university, the private sectors, which includes studios, as well as the professional sector, which is professional dance companies, as well as independent artists and students. So we have 3 major events a year. The one that's coming up right away is our fall conference, and this will be held on November 2nd at Weber State University. And we have a really interesting theme this year. It's, I'm going to read it to you, The Rich Legacy of Dance Education in Utah. And we'll be having some really informative people come talk about some of our dance pioneers. Our keynote speakers will be Linda Smith of Repertory Dance Theater, Joan Woodbury and Shirley Ryrie of Ryrie Woodbury, And we'll also have presenters on Virginia Tanner, Mary B. Jensen, Ann Riordan, Sally Fitt, and others. So this will be a very exciting year.
So Karen, can I interrupt you right
Please.
here? When I go to national things, and Jean has said this before, when we go with our colleagues across the country, they say, where are you from? We say Utah. They say, oh, the dance state. We just don't recognize sometimes what a remarkable community of professional dance.
Well, and those people she just mentioned, Shirley, Briar and Joanne, Linda Smith, and Mary Ann Lee with Virginia Tanner. When NEA came into being in the 60s, they expressly asked those women to launch dance education across the country. So they've been part of the national conversation in dance education for a long time. And they're still alive and living with us. In fact, we saw Mary Ann Lee up at the Logan Arts Conference at age 70 some odd, still leaping across the stage. That's how she did her keynote.
And I saw Linda on Friday at the board meeting.
Yeah. So you've got these legendary people in your own state that are recognized all over the world. I went and presented at a conference in Wales 4 years ago on dance, the history of dance in Utah. Whenever they saw my name, they recite those people. And from Denmark, places like that, they go, oh, you're where Linda Smith lives. I'm going, yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that information. If you or your teachers want to attend our conference, you can go to our website and click on Find Events. In fact, if you'll navigate this, I am sorry, unfortunately, our website's not updated, but this will at least show you how to get there. But you can click on the fall conference, and this is last year's keynote speaker. But what I thought I'd bring to your attention, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, and I'm looking at both of you for this, but historically, the Utah Board of Education has provided a generous grant to allow educators to attend this conference. And so you can do half price if you register by October 12th. It'll be about October 12th-ish. Or if 5 or more dance educators of BTS specialists register at the same time, then you can get the 6th one for free. So keep that in mind as you promote this to your dance educators.
Can you repeat that? So BTS teachers can go for free?
Yeah, so if 5 or more educators or BTS specialists register from the same district, then the 6th one can attend for free. Correct, yeah. And you can email the webmaster at UDEO for more information. So even though this is not updated in terms of our presenters, the discount will still be the same as well. So you can refer back to this for that. At our fall conference, we do honor dance educators, and we have a Dance Educator of the Year award. If you feel that you know someone within your district that is deserving of such honor, you could email at info@udeo.org. We do have a form that we have sent out to our members as well, but we like nominations from district art coordinators or principals or colleagues and the like. So that's one event. Our 2 other major events we do each year is the Junior High Day of Dance. This is held at the Rose Wagner Theater, and this will be on February 5th, 6th, and 7th. And this is where Repertory Dance Theater will host a day of dance for junior high students in technique and choreography and improvisation. And then they have a gathering and a sharing as well. This event has been so popular that we added a 3rd day just this year in 2019. So our biggest event is the High School Day of Dance, which will be held March 6th and 7th. Again, I apologize that it's not up to date, but will be very soon. This year, our event is at Snow College, but it's the Richfield campus of Snow College. So don't go to Ephraim, but but Snow College Richfield. And it's a 2-day event. The first night is a Friday where colleges and universities attend the conference and students are able to audition for tuition scholarships. So we usually have representation of 6 to 8 colleges as well as some professional organizations. And then Saturday is an all-day long event where students are trained in different dance forms. Their dances they choreograph are adjudicated. And then in the evening, we have a big gala festival where everyone can see everyone perform. The last thing I want to tell you about is this is our inaugural year for an Allstate dance ensemble. And this is on here as well. So we are bringing in a professional dancer from New York named Rachel Rapins, I guess. And this is modeled after the high school festival for music and band. I've never been a part of it myself, but it's modeled after that. And it'll be about a 3-day event where students can audition and then over the course of 3 days learn a work about 45 minutes long. It'll be performed the Saturday evening for that. I think this is all I have to share with you at this time, but our newsletters are on our website. You can email us. And does anybody have any questions at this time? Okay, thank you.
Can you go to the UMEA website, umea.us? Do I need to put this little mic on?
It's helpful to the recording.
Got it. My name's Todd Campbell. I'm the president of Utah Music Educators. This is my first time here, and I'm seeing for the first time faces of some names. I'm seeing some other familiar faces. It's nice to be here and appreciate being included. You know, when people say stuff like, I thought I knew stuff and now I'm realizing how much I don't know. Well, that's kind of what I feel like here. But it's a pleasure to be here and to look at the arts in a bigger picture and again, appreciate the opportunity. Utah Music Educators are doing, it's our 75th anniversary this year. So at our conference this year is February 7 and 8 down in St. George, which is our traditional place. For the first year, we are starting our first mentor conference. Hopefully you've heard about it. It is for teachers in their very first year. And it's about 5 weeks into the school year when like, oh boy, what did I get myself into? And if you're like, music, you know, we tend to lose more teachers than we want. And we've modeled this conference after the state of Missouri by going to some of the national things. I've made some friends with Missouri who has this conference, and in 5 or 6 years of doing it, the people who have attended, they've only lost one teacher. Anybody who's attended that conference, and I'm like, we've got to do this. So that's coming up here. There may be room still. It's September 30 through October 1st. They're staying overnight. We're paying for their hotel. We're investing a lot in it. And so if you know of anybody that's in their first year, please let me know. What else have I got here? We've appreciated working with some of you, and Rhonda Rhodes, our past president, has done a lot with all of this going on and the Arts for Life stuff. I don't know where that all fits in. I'm learning even more every time I think there's an organization for something. There's 5 of them, and there's all these acronyms floating around. I hope you'll forgive me. I'm learning what they all are, but appreciate that. I also appreciate very much, I just wanted to show you our website. talking about advocacy, I believe so strongly that it's something we need to participate in a lot. I made sure when I got in here that we've got to have that right on the front page. People need to know that we are about advocacy, and they have to have some information as well as mentorship, that we need to make people feel included and that they need to, in this profession, especially when they are new. Anyway, so I just thought we'd show that. That's plenty. I'm thrilled to hear about, I've been able the last 2 summers to go back to Washington, D.C. with our national organization, go to all of our Utah senators and congressmen's offices. And we've had a follow-up visit with one of them here during their break here, and talk about music education and ESSA. And appreciate the lead that they've had there. I actually have, if you're interested, and you can look this up, but I have all of the numbers for the Title IV Part A monies. And for example, I mean, these are just some of the districts. Alpine, 532,000, Box Elder, 89,000, Canyons, 236,000, Davis, 411,000, Granite District, $1 million. I mean, this is the stuff that is through ESSA, and you've heard 3 people already talk about it. There's a lot of money. Obviously, you probably wouldn't get all of it, but I had a nice visit with Rob and really Schmidt, and really appreciated him telling me it was that persistent, just building relationships over and over. In Davis County, Christine Wolf is our advocacy chair. She and I went to our district. We both teach in Davis District. We met with Andrew Thorne, who's our arts coordinator, and we met with her boss, which is now under Humanities. They've restructured it in a different way, and we talked about it. We walked out of there kind of high-fiving, like, hey, we're on the front end of this, and they're learning about it. Well, we got nothing, 0. And we thought we were on the front end, but I've learned from Rob, I guess we got to be more, you know, pounding on the door a little bit more. We have come to find out, though, that they spent a lot of it in math, which is fine for lower socioeconomic and whatever. But we also found out that they're bringing in a which I think is fascinating, and I don't know if I should even bring this up, but they're spending $15,000 in our district on bringing some math guy in for 1 day to talk to him. And I just think that's like, we were on the front end of this and we got nothing. So it's we've got to advocate, we got to build relationships. You all know that. I don't need to say that. So anyway, it's a thrill to be here. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
A couple thoughts came to mind as he was speaking, and I was thinking about the National Association for Music Education. There's a lot of work to be done as far as equity in music education, but the National Association for Music Education is on top of it. Their national conference this year is all focused on equity and diversity and what do those things mean. And our local organization supports that and is working towards that as well. So I wanted to give a shout out to them for recognizing the issue and being willing to address it head on. I was thinking when they were talking about ask people what they want to be called, ask people what is sensitive to them. I just filled out, as my membership in the National Association for Music Education, I filled out their diversity questionnaire survey. And when it came to gender, they asked a gender question, and there were at least 6 choices for gender. And then there was a box of other that you could explain. So they were asking some really deep questions about people's self-identity and those really sensitive issues. It was fascinating to me. Who's up?
Sorensen Legacy.
Oh, Sorensen Legacy. The Sorensen Legacy Foundation has again gifted us a generous donation so that we can maintain the Sorensen Legacy Awards for Excellence in Arts Education. Again, we count on you. We hate to add things to your plate, but we count on you to know who is deserving of those awards for excellence in arts education. We're hoping to have the applications out by late October, early November. We'll give you plenty of time to get those in. The nominations cannot be made by the individual, but the individual that is being nominated must be an active participant in the creation of that application, because we need a lot of information that only they have.
And if you feel strongly about someone that you've nominated before that has not received the award, please nominate them again, because in every category, only one person can win. And just understand it. Sometimes it's not that they're not deserving. It's a matter that only one can be selected. So
that's great information. And Karen, do we have old nominations still? Do we have access to them? Okay, so did you hear that? We have the information from last year's nomination. You can't just call us and say, hey, we're nominating them again, but we can help you have access to that information so that you can enhance it. You don't have to completely recreate it. We're trying to find out when the Huntsman Awards are before we schedule. Last year, we tried really hard and thought we had missed them, and we scheduled on top of them, and people in our office were really unhappy. So we have to be careful, and that's why we don't have a date right now. Anything else, Karen?
I would also like to just mention that a lot of people think that they have to be part of the Beverly Sorensen artist learning program to be nominated. And while they're kind of both kind of the Sorensen Family Foundation enterprise, make sure that high school and junior high school teachers are also considered, because a lot of people, you've heard, well, they're not a BTS teacher. This is not for just BTS.
That's a really good point to make. The Sorensen Legacy Foundation was where BTS, the Beverly Taylor Sorensen program, began. But since then, there have been other foundations from the Sorensen family, the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Foundation, the Artworks for Kids Foundation. Those foundations are the ones that support Beverly Taylor Sorensen. Sorensen Legacy Foundation is a completely different foundation that is actually run by different family members. So they are family members and all that brings, but this is certainly not BTS specific, if you've ever had that misunderstanding. Question? Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought you had a question earlier. Maybe it was it? Okay, anything else? Okay.
okay, now is the fun time. Not that you haven't had a fun time, right? Good information, a lot of information, but we don't get together a lot. So it's like we try to pack it all into one day. Okay, from the cards that you filled out when we did our little icebreaker, we have 4 groups that were identified that we would have peer networking. And so these are the groups. One's going to be elementary, and that's going to include arts integration, coaching, and BTS ALP. One group several people mentioned about students, specifically recognition and achievement, goal setting, and programming for students. So that will be one group, and you get to choose which group you go to. Another one is local education agency, and that's for the whole, your whole agency, and that's focusing on collaboration, capacity building, and advocacy. And the last group is local education agency and school level, and specifically growing arts programs and teacher retention. So these were taken from what your goals were, and so we wanted to have a time for you to get together and brainstorm some of these focus areas on what's going on. And that brainstorming process is so great because it just can ignite ideas that you haven't thought of that you might try that will be the answer to your goal for this year. Okay.
And I'm soon going to have that typed up and put on the board.
Okay. Okay, we'll put up here LEA and school level, growing arts programs, and teacher retention. Hopefully there's a group that you want to go to. We'll put elementary arts integration, coaching, and BTS here, these two tables. LEA-wide collaboration, capacity building, advocacy, right here with one of our best advocates, our education advocates. And students recognition, achievement, goal setting, programming back here. So please move around. And Kathy, do we want key ideas or anything written, or just networking? Because we have only
20 minutes or
20
so.
minutes.
Let them just have the conversation.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be great. We could use that.
I probably should. You guys, I'm gonna switch and put elementary over here because there was one person who had to leave. So, the elementary is right here, and we're gonna put the students right here. Yes.
Right. Will you stand here?
Thank you.
And I'll just set this down on the table then, because are they going to have like a more of a chat sort of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just set it down on the table.
And somebody said, oh, that looks great. And then we just did it. You shouldn't be correct. You should be part of it. You should have discussion. But I figured, I mean, and this is, again, this is our national association. They're like, I mean, look at all these totals. You just gotta keep fighting.
I'm so glad.
Elementary kids, that's all. Half the building, obviously, all right. I'm struggling with that. Or like, like that, yeah. But then my group.
Just if you guys, because I just wanted to see and if we get on the phone.
I guess.
Oh, that's true.
Like on the table.
I'm totally willing to talk in person. If I can talk.
Well, I was just looking such like, I was just like, this place out there. Bigger. I guess they're all the way up and all the way down.
We're not gonna share out here. What we are gonna do is to ask each individual to reflect on the day, reflect on the goal that we made this morning. And does that need to change? Do we need to add something? What is an action item that you need? So your individual action item, and that's personal to you. Okay?
Well, we have a website where you know what's on
And if not, I can.
anything that's happening.
No, I think they pop up there right now. They pop up right
And that way, I will listen on the way home.
Does it start at 2:30?
2:30.
Another year. Your class is good. Don't be surprised because I'm adding people. Okay. That is
You open registration like tomorrow.
If you have some people, send me an email.
Just go that way.
And I think you're one. Just like
Send
you
the
are
seed
from.
deposit.
Okay.
She would like to do drawing, but drawing.
It's open. I can put them in dry.
You know, we have some people who are not, like, oh, this was going to share that with you also, but last year, she didn't pay. So I went on back to it.
Dry takes long.
Everybody's lost. Because we don't thank you for this year.
Well,
So mine's only 8 years long. So everybody's yeah. For the kids.
might it be good for her?
Yes.
I'll do
it. I would like to have every BTS teacher.
So is it?
Oh, yeah. All right. I guess, and probably, there is technically a video of it on YouTube already, just like kind of right after. It's popped up there.
That's great.
I can't remember if I have it.
Yeah, probably,
And then unfortunately, what I wanted to do was to go in and start making those presentations instead of just one spreadsheet.
Okay. That's fine.